He wore a trench coat. He wore a trench coat every day. He wore that trench coat today, 90 degrees. That's how he was able to get the shotgun into the school. He was quiet. But as the governor said, and as we found on his Facebook page and other social media before it was taken down, this suspect really didn't have any warning signs. And as the governor called him, he was a clean slate. There was an 18-year-old student who was detained. According to the governor, that student acted suspiciously or acted strangely at the school after the incident, was taken into custody, and then the governor referred to another suspect. Didn't give us any details on that, but it sounds like an investigative lead led them to that. One other thing the governor said in response to a question, Jake, no reason to suspect any person other than the suspect in custody was involved in making those bombs.
Demetrius Pagorchis, 17, had scant details of his life on Facebook before the page disappeared, but this is what CNN was able to confirm before Facebook removed him from its platform. Pagorchis says he started attending Santa Fe High School 3 years ago. He posted pictures of himself showing what appears to be a normal, nondescript high school student. But on April 30th, less than a month ago, he also posted this, a custom black T-shirt that says, "Born to Kill." Indications are the shooter may have been wearing this T-shirt when he went to school this morning. Another post, a black duster jacket with Nazi, communist, fascist, and religious symbols. And under the name Kamikaze, Pagorchis posted 3 rap songs on YouTube. That is it. The rest, typical teen. A photo of him in a church group. Other photos showing an average American. On his Facebook page, he showed interest in joining the U.S. Marine Corps starting in 2019, he wrote. Before high school, he attended Santa Fe Junior High, where he was listed on the 6th grade honor roll. He was mentioned as a standout player on the school's JV football team a few years ago, but that is it. Law enforcement tells CNN at this point they have no reason to believe he was on anybody's radar, and so far there is no explanation for why he would have done this.
Jake, we did check with the Marine Corps. They have no record this kid showed any interest to them in becoming a U.S. Marine.
We know that this accused shooter posted this image, a T-shirt that read "Born to Kill." He also had Nazi images, a pin on his page, a hammer and sickle, and others. Would those in and of themselves raise red flags for a law enforcement officer?
Absolutely, and they should for anybody. And I think part of the issue here is that we're kind of taking a passive approach to looking at red flags, and we're only looking at social media and saying what he posted, but he had a network, he had a community that assisted him in carrying out this act. We already know that there's another potential suspect. So that means that there's at least one other person and potentially others that knew about or potentially involved in what he was planning. So I think we should start to focus more so on the human factors and start to look a little bit closer at these red flags and not taking such a passive approach as we have.
Art Roderick, the governor said that the shooter, his weapons were a shotgun, and a .38 revolver, which he took from his father. It's unclear whether the father allowed him access to the guns or not. What do investigators do with that information?
Well, I mean, first of all, those are usually generally given right away to ATF to go and check the history of both those weapons, where they were purchased, where they were picked up from, what kind of access did this kid have with the father's weapons at home? Were they locked in a safe? Did he have access to the safe? So there's a lot of questions about how he actually got his hands on the weapons. It appears at this particular point in time, those weapons were purchased legally. It's just going to be a matter of how he accessed them to bring them into school that day. And one quick point on the social media end of it, Jake, I think we tend to strictly look at Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, email accounts. But, you know, as we've heard in past cases involving communications, especially between teenagers, the first thing I would do is grab that Xbox or that PlayStation, that gaming device, because they're able to communicate with one another and pass messages back and forth on those types of devices. So there could be a ton of information on those types of gaming devices of how he had planned to actually pull this particular thing off with other accomplices.
We have so many questions right now that we don't have answers to, which is the primary reason why I took great exception with respect to the governor coming out and saying that there were no red flags. It is too soon to tell whether there were red flags. We do not know. As law enforcement officers, this is a complex investigation. Not only do you have information you're getting from the subject as far as determining, what he's actually telling you, but you're going to want to corroborate that through physical evidence, looking at his residence, going through looking at these devices. You're going to want to talk to those associates. You're going to want to talk to people who, may have been in his orbit, who may have suspected, may have seen something, and provide that information. So to say now that, there were no warning signs, there were no red flags is just completely premature.
More than a dozen people are hospitalized for apparent K2 overdoses. Police say so far 16 people in Bushwick overdosed, and that number is growing. They are investigating whether those people used K2 and illegal synthetic marijuana. Police say some arrests were made. Back in 2016, there was a major K2 overdose in the same area.
Witnesses say the patients were puffing on a substance 1 minute, then the next struggling to breathe or unconscious. There were numerous ambulance runs.
They smoking it, and they ODing on it.
Police say they are the likely victims of an especially potent or bad batch of the synthetic drug K2.
It's pretty bad. All they do is smoke and pass out.
Investigators trying to track where the drugs came from were inside Big Boy Deli, which was shut down because police say they failed a business inspection. Some men inside were arrested for allegedly selling untaxed cigarettes.
I definitely have seen some suspect people outside of this place.
It is not the first time a scene like this played out here. This is very similar to what happened in mid-July of 2016, with 33 overdose cases in a single night around the same intersection. Residents, city council members, and other politicians said Sunday they want stepped-up police patrols in Bushwick and Bedford-Stuyvesant and tougher penalties for those caught supplying synthetic drugs. Currently, merchants who are convicted lose their business licenses, face fines, and jail time. But stopping the sales can be tough as more transactions happen on the sly, out in front of the businesses.
Some of the local shop owners are now using what's called runners. So not selling it absolutely out of the store, but having people who are working outside of the store.
Some of the more than 24 patients showing signs of overdose were brought here to Woodhull Medical Center. We saw officers on the streets trying to get more people medical help, but many, including this man, refused treatment.
The sadness of seeing somebody struggling to that point where they can't take care of themselves,
An indication the number of drug users suffering during this latest incident is higher than originally thought.
K2, Spice, Black Mamba, it goes by dozens of names. Dried plant material sprayed with chemicals and known as synthetic weed. Doctors say it was dangerous enough to begin with, but in the last month, hospitals across Chicagoland have been seeing a new ingredient.
Brodifacoum, that is the rat poison that's being mixed with synthetic cannabinoids.
Dr. Arun Kumar tells me the rat poison was found in the body of a 22-year-old man who arrived at Christ Hospital last week. He was bleeding internally after recently smoking synthetic marijuana. Doctors began treating him, but he
left the hospital against medical advice and then was found dead a few days later.
We've learned his case is one of 2 confirmed deaths in Illinois. The other is in central Illinois. A third death in Cook County may also be connected to the drug. The Illinois Department of Public Health is calling it an outbreak, reporting 95 cases since March 7th. Toxicologist and ER doc Jenny Liu has seen it firsthand.
Bleeding from the gums, from the nose. They may cough or vomit blood. They may have blood in their urine or their stools.
Dr. Liu says most of her patients are unaware that the drug they've used in the past may now be laced with a dangerous poison. And without treatment,
these effects can last for weeks.
It can be fatal. She's hoping the word gets out as soon as possible before more lives are lost.
We do not know where this is headed. How many more cases are going to come in, how long this is going to last.
Patients who overdose on K2 are given a drug called naloxone to reverse the effects.
Police say the suspect in a violent standoff with law enforcement is dead tonight. He was also a suspect in a homicide in neighboring Walton County. We're learning about what was found in his apartment.
Well, the alleged active shooter was pronounced dead late this afternoon. Now, here is what the scene looks like right now. This is on Beck Avenue near 21st Street. Still, a lot of police out here 10 hours later. And as you can imagine, this is really shaking up this quiet community. Witnesses say 40 to 50 gunshots were fired around noon Tuesday.
I knew it wasn't fireworks because it was too consistent and way too loud and way too many all at once.
Those shots believed to be from 49-year-old Kevin Holroyd, who was dead in his Beck Avenue apartment just after 4 o'clock. We still don't know how he died. Police say Holroyd barricaded himself inside his apartment. He doused the apartment with gasoline and had booby traps set up. Police believe that he tried to light a flare before he died, and we know that the earlier shots were fired from the second floor.
All the shooting, there are shots now. Shots fired now. I'm gonna go.
Our next star sister station, WMBB, was on air doing a live interview when the shots were fired. And we talked to reporter Megan Myers about those tense moments.
Earlier, one of the witnesses had told me it kind of felt like a movie to him. And in that moment, I could totally agree with that. It just felt very unreal.
Holroyd is also believed to be connected to a homicide in Santa Rosa Beach in Walton County Tuesday morning. Investigators say the homicide victim was 30-year-old Clinton Street, who was engaged to marry Holroyd's ex-wife. And police believe there could have been 200 shots that were fired at the officers today. There was also one person who was injured trying to run away here. She was grazed by a bullet, expected to be okay. Police still out here investigating tonight. We hope to learn more information about exactly what happened in the days to come.